There are a couple of observations that guide the construction of this proof. The very first is that our conclusion has as its main operator the horseshoe and not either of the quantifiers. Pay attention to where your parentheses are and are not, and notice that the first existential quantifier has as its scope just the sentence fx, and the second existential quantifier has is its scope this disjunction. The main operator of the conclusion is the horseshoe. That means assuming the antecedent of that conditional and trying to derive the consequent as the last line of our subproof is probably going to be the most straightforward strategy here. Now, the next observation to make is the fact that what we want here is an existential generalization. And so some version of this sentence. While you're still just thinking about your strategy, you may not know what instantial letter is going to work the best for you. But the idea is if we can get an instance of this disjunction, then we can generalize and get the desired consequent. And the predicate letter J in general doesn't even show up anywhere in our premises. So very likely that means that we're going to look to derive just the left-hand side and then add in the right-hand side. And then there's actually one more observation that I want to make here. There may be a temptation to go ahead and instantiate this first premise. After all, it is a generic strategy to maybe derive a few lines before opening your subproof, partly so that you always can use them even after you've closed the subproof, but also to help you see where the proof might be going. But in this case, notice that when we make our assumption for conditional proof, we are going to be assuming an existential generalization. And to use that existential generalization, probably we will need to use EI. And this is another EI plus UI proof. And in those cases, at least generally speaking, the tactic is going to be to use UI after you've used EI so as to get around that requirement about instantial letters being new to the proof. So then based on these observations, where we'll start the proof is with that assumption for conditional proof. And of course, our target in the subproof is the consequent of the desired conditional. We noted that the proof is going to involve EI and UI, and so we EI first. Should write that in. We can choose any one that we want. Let's go ahead and use A. And then now it's safe to use UI on line 1. Now we're in a position to derive GA and HA from 3 and 4 modus ponens. And the reason for doing that is because we are getting closer to getting half of our disjunction. Once we've got that half, we'll use add to introduce our mysterious new disjunct. And we had targeted this disjunction so that we could existentially generalize. And of course, once we've got that sentence, which we want as our consequent, we're now in a position to close our subproof. I'll go ahead and drop my lines just to make it clear exactly what we're doing here. So now I'm going to use conditional proof. I'm going to use it to close the subproof that I opened at line 2. And what that's going to look like is the sentence from that provisional assumption copied over and turned into the antecedent of a conditional, the consequent of which is the last line of my subproof. And I've got my desired conclusion.